It's still the conversation this morning, and on this segment, we're looking at ease of doing business in Lagos. That means how businesses navigate regulations, infrastructure, government policies, and access to finance. Lagos is Nigeria's economic hub, but how business friendly is it? What policies are in place to attract investment and drive economic growth? Okay, joining us this morning is Jeff Adeboale, our friend, a policy development strategist, to break down the realities of doing business in Lagos and explore ongoing efforts to improve the business climate. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. Just before we started the show, I told you about my friend who lost her school here in Lagos just because of some of these factors that influence businesses. So let's begin this way. What is the major factor that's, or challenge that entrepreneurs, business owners go through as at today?
Okay, so I mean, it is one thing for us to pinpoint what exactly is wrong, but I'd like to first of all start from even the staggering numbers. I mean, well, let's say in Lagos, we've lost well over 500,000 jobs in the last few years. And of course, many companies have folded up, maybe well over 100,000 of them. And just like you said, this is your friend's school, and you can imagine the number of teachers and, cleaners and support staff and all of that would have been laid off. What is the major problem, you would ask? And for me, there are a few things that I see that are very critical. And with the ease of doing business, I mean, you would look at the buying power of people. And so the economy generally affects, I mean, if you talk about a school, a preschool, how many parents can still pay school fees? Still have the power to be able to. And I mean, the power is not because they don't wish to, but I mean, the cost of living is quite high. And so they have to sort of prioritize staying alive than paying school fees. So, I mean, people who used to, say, for example, be on the road, go visiting and all of that. And so the commerce around transportation has reduced because whether you like it or not, you will reconsider where you're going and say, hey, I think I better just sit back at home because I don't want to spend that kind of money. I mean, so there are a lot of factors, that's very critical. But of course, in the business sector itself, I mean, strategy is one thing. To sort of keep the business alive. But when you don't have the capital to keep the operational capital to keep a business going, so you can have the startup capital. And sometimes some businesses don't require startup capital. You just need to be able to get it off the ground. And it may not require any money.
Any money, okay.
But then in sustaining, there is a requirement for you to be able to market, for you to continue to be able to face your client. I mean, I have spent in the last 1 year chasing arguably one project, very massive project. I've spent close to 100 million. Traveling, hotels, and I mean, everything you can think of in the last 1 year. And it is painful on me and my business as of today. That such an amount of money has been plunged into, yes, it's a big project, and that's why we're still chasing it 1 year down the line. And so if I wasn't able to do those other little projects that was able to fund this my engagement and have investors, and of course we borrowed money, which we're still indebted to.
And the business hasn't kicked off yet?
The project is yet to kick off. So I have to continue to stay alive. I mean, I had to lay off some staff, and we work remotely, so it has to be project by project basis. So if we get a project, I get people in, we execute. So I mean, businesses must also learn when we come to recommendations. But those are some of the things that I would say, even as somebody who is currently running a business of my own.
Okay, from this scenario you have given, about your project that is yet to kick off. How easy is it to start a business in Lagos today, despite all the, big talk about it from government that, oh, Lagos is the hub of business. And of course, Lagos just being declared the second largest economy.
Yeah.
How easy is it to start a business?
I mean, it's not easy if you must look at the government factor, and the element of what you require government to do. But on your own self, you could sort of, break through some things and get it off the ground. Like I said, if you want to do a business that is probably that requires maybe social media, maybe you're just standing in the value chain, and you also want to do some maybe marketing, there's some things you can do without needing government generally.
Yeah.
But if your business must require
government?
when
it comes to infrastructure,
no,
even
again, starting. That's why I said that starting. Just getting it off the ground. But again, in sustainability, you definitely need government.
Okay.
Yeah. So to get it off the ground to start, you could do without government. And let's just be very plain and very factual. If you want to be doing drop shipping, for example, you want to be selling shoes and selling stuff, you don't necessarily need government. Beyond, right now you could start and sell to your network without necessarily opening a bank account. So you may start without necessarily having a corporate brand name, but you start. So, but if you must have a corporate brand name, then you need, government registration. Then, of course, at the state level, to register a company is not necessarily at the state level. CAC is at the federal government level. So, that's one headache to sort of cross. But I think that the federal government have done, a lot of work to ensure that it's easier to register a business name or register a company without necessarily going through the hurdle of, registering a company. But when you get off there, the challenge that I face, for example, I used to do active project for Lagos State government. And I think I can say it here. I used to do a lot of work for Loma, basically in environment. And literally every year, of course, we have to pay for what's it called, a BPA or something. We have to pay for being a contractor with Lagos State government. Now, the flip to that is if you don't register every January, if you register in December, that amount of money that you pay ends in that year, December. So you must pay another one in January. So, even if you are not expecting any contract from government, every year at the beginning of the year, you must go and pay. If your KIDA is maybe 100,000, you must pay 100,000 and be hoping that the year will come and you'll get a project.
Get a project, okay.
But if you don't...
What if you do? Okay.
That means that 100,000 is gone.
And you have to keep paying.
And you have to keep paying every year. But what I would have thought is that if I come to government today in July to register, it should be a whole full circle, 365 days.
Can't it even be a one-off,
Well, those are some of the other things that we need to look at. But again, it's part of the reasons or part of where the state generates revenue. So to do public sector advisory or to do public sector job, you must be ready to factor in that, that amount every year. Then when you now need to pay your taxes and pay your returns and you need to pay your levies and all of that, then you have to go from one office to another, get a code, go to the bank, pay. But if we could, yes, if we could automate all of this system, then easily in my office, I can get my account people to make all of this registration done without necessarily having to send anyone to allow. So that way, what you will discover very quickly is that there will be more engagement. Because when you make it easy for people to do, they won't think it twice. They will do it. If I'm in my office every 3rd of January, for example, I can ensure, or 4th or 5th, somewhere in January, I can ensure that those payments are made. All returns are filed, because we can do it from the comfort of the office. And so if we do that, it becomes a lot easier. But if we have to still get somebody to get up, they will always prioritize other things, So, those are some of the things that, we must do to make it easier for people to do business.
Okay, I said earlier that there is no business where you want in Lagos that you would not need the government.
Yes.
And this brings me to the factor of infrastructure. Things like roads, power supply, even telecommunications, that gives us data and all of that.
Yeah.
How does all of these affect, businesses in Lagos?
It does significantly. Let's even first start from the network and the data, the internet, connectivity and facility that every business will
with this
require.
high tariff.
I mean, it's crazy. On my own phone, I think now I do literally close to 25,000 every month. That's not connecting to anything, just on the phone. And so every day.
And what did you used to have?
I mean, I used to probably spend like 10,000 a month.
Hey.
I mean, every day I get a 4 gig, 5 gig data. I mean, the network will send me that I've spent, 5 gig data, and I'm like, what did I do?
What did you do?
So imagine that impact on businesses and how much they have to pay for fiber optics or whatever network they use in the office. That's one. Number two, you talk about power. It is amazing. I mean, I know a few people who have shut down their physical office. I had to shut down my physical office because you need to look at the space and how much you pay per square meter. And then you look at how much you pay to maintain it, let alone how much you then pay for power. Then you have to buy diesel for the generator to run because you can't keep your staff in the heat in the afternoon. So you must keep the room cool. And then all the other costs associated to running an office. So, I mean, those are some of the things that, takes away a lot, in the operational cost. And then you will hear that most of the businesses are declaring losses. If you check their numbers very well, there's a lot that they put in operations to keep the business running. And so if you look at cost of sales and your operational cost, it nets into the negative. So those are the things that, I mean, if we then talk about infrastructure, yes, Lagos, I mean, Lagos is way better than a lot of places.
Lots of other places, yeah.
Abuja is now probably going to overtake Lagos when it comes to road infrastructure because the minister for the FCT is doing a lot, in that regard. But I mean, kudos to the federal government, kudos to Mr. President, for ensuring that Abuja is well developed. But Lagos is also enjoying such. But what I would challenge the government on in Lagos State is not focusing just only on the major roads, the state and the federal roads, but the inner roads, the street roads. The local government must be empowered to do more of those inner roads. Okay. What you then see is that we'll see the congestion of the major roads, because then I can travel within the network of those street roads and get across to where I need to get to without necessarily having to come onto the highway before I can navigate to where I'm going.
Okay, is it possible for business owners, depending on, no matter what you do, selling or whatever product you have, to deal less with, moving around to save traffic? This is where also the government would come in to ensure good roads, like you said, and of course, a traffic-less environment.
I mean, goods must travel from place to place. Service may not necessarily have to travel.
Goods must.
But goods must. I mean, if I decide to sit here and I want to have a breakfast, I mean, we're fasting. I'm not a Muslim, though, but I'm just saying we're fasting. But Christians, if I choose... Yes, Christians are fasting. But like I said, no, don't let me talk about food anymore. Let me talk about something else.
Okay.
Let me say... Let's say I want to buy a pair of shoes. I mean, it must get to me. That's a product that must travel from, one location to the other. And so that's why we need good access, to those infrastructure. Beyond the road network, I mean, the trains are coming, and so we need more of that in Lagos. Good that we've adopted the Dubai style, which is more of the overhead trains and, some surface. We can't go underground because of Lagos's wetlands, more majorly wetlands. So we can't go underground, so we can't do underground tunnels. But at least we can do what we're doing and have, surface trains and overhead trains. So if we have more of those coming and secured high-speed network of trains, it will help with movement of people and it will decongest the major road. Like I said, of course, if you also have the internal roads, I mean, if you are in Bagada phase 1, phase 2, Pedro, if you must get
that's
to,
my area.
that's your area. That's where I grew up, and that's my hood. I mean, if you must get to the island, you can get off onto Bagada Highway and get on Third Mainland.
Yes.
You could get into Shomolu and do many
Pedro.
street roads through Pedro into Yaba and connect in front.
And,
Yes, you can come back out to Antoni and do, but you know, instead of doing Third Mainland, instead of coming back to Ikorodu Road, if you do the inner roads through Folagoro, I mean, pass all that network and get in front, if all those roads are very good, you will see less congestion on the highways. And so people would naturally travel within streets, you know, network, because the roads are good. The network of the roads, I mean, there are no street parkings and streets are wide enough for vehicles to move freely and all of that. That would impact on movement of people and of goods. Services, I could decide to stay where I am. I mean, I could be doing training, which I do regularly, and I'm doing it virtually, so I could be anywhere. And I'm offering my training services, so I don't necessarily have to travel. So some services do not necessarily need to be physical, and people don't need to move around a lot. So, but of course, we still need the road infrastructure and every other sort of transport infrastructure to be able to move goods, and I mean goods majorly, you know, from place to place.
Okay, financing and access to funds is also a major factor ease of doing business. And we know that the Lagos State government has the LSCTF, which is the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So aside that, what more do you think government can do in order to provide funds to business owners or entrepreneurs?
So I would be saying that what I'm about to say, Ibile Microfinance or Ibile Holdings generally should be paying me for what I'm about to do. Because as a consultant, this is what I do.
Okay.
What can we do? I know, I believe...
Because financing is still an issue.
Yes.
It's
I mean,
major issue.
Major issue. Because, like I said, keeping a business running, you need that capital to be able to get, you know, things going. I mean, like I said, I've spent about 100 million trying to chase a project. Yes, it's in the billions, no doubt. So the 100 million, if I didn't have to spend the whole year trying to chase it down, I wouldn't have spent that much, and it would have been a profitable, you know, venture. But even with the 100 million, it's still going to be a profitable venture at the end of the day. But here is the flip side to it. In Lagos, if you focus on Lagos, for example, as this conversation is, what can Lagos do differently, again, to be able to make the economy even bigger? Like I said, under the Ibile Holdings, Ibile Holdings can structure, which again, this is an idea that I dropped for the former governor of Lagos State, Governor Fashola. Back then, I wrote a paper to him, and I know that it sort of bettered and made Ibile Holdings a little bit more stronger, but I will add a little bit more to it. And this is what I mean. I believe there is Ibile Microfinance Bank. The question is, what is that structure doing for SMEs? And that structure can do a lot for SMEs. If Lagos State goes digital pretty much the way they should, what Lagos State needs to have, which is again the proposal that I have before that is going to the Minister for Trade and Investment, is to have a register of businesses, both formal and informal businesses. And there's a lot in the informal sector. So if an Ibile Microfinance Bank can be well structured to go after the informal sector and, of course, the formal sector at a certain level, what Ibile Microfinance can do is to sort of structure finance that this group of people can tap into, that will make it easier for them to have liquid capital to engage businesses and to engage their business. So, I mean, I don't want to mention this particular brand.
Please don't.
That is so big now that you will wonder how they started. I mean, people don't know the history. They started as an NGO who does a lot of women empowerment, and they've now become one of the biggest microfinance banks. And I will tell you, they're actually even bigger than some commercial banks in Nigeria. Yes, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. They actually have, they are bigger than some commercial banks in Nigeria.
Wow. Okay.
because they know the market and they penetrate
and,
that market.
yeah. Okay. Multiple taxation.
Yes.
Yes. Let's talk about that. How can this also be looked into?
I mean, we have a professional who has done something very lovely, and kudos to Mr. President again, because he knows that, yes, that's
tax reforms.
Yeah, so
But-
that tax reform.
Okay. But it came with a lot of
Yes.
backlash.
And I think, I'm not sure whether it was on this platform or another platform that I said that, I mean, because we don't read, it's easy for us to fight things because we don't read to understand the details of what is there to know the impact. But what I believe is that if we can be patient enough to start the implementation of that tax reform,
The tax reform.
we will start to see things go better. I mean, we can't do without, it's almost impossible with the way Nigeria is structured not to have multiple taxation. It's almost impossible, you know, the way the country is structured. I mean, other climes you will see structures where the federal government is isolated from what happens at the state level. But here, I mean, the federal and the states are almost in constant battle as to what happens. But I want to believe Mr. President wants to sort of break that link. And so the local government should receive a lot of support to be able to impact the life of people. The state level must be able to coordinate that. And then maybe at the end of the day, the region. Outside that, the federal government should now just sort of oversee what is going on and have less engagement with tax. I'm sure that's why now federal government is only receiving 10% of taxes, and then the remaining comes to the state and the local government, which I think is a brilliant idea.
Okay, still using Lagos State as a case study, what exactly should an investor look out for when you want to bring your investment into Lagos?
Lagos is still about the best place you can invest in Nigeria. And I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this first-hand information. I have many projects now. One of them is we have been so ready to mobilize to site. It's a market development. And kudos to the local government chairman, who is a foresight man. It's Tafa local government in Niger State. And I give him kudos again for his foresightedness, because this is not even so much about whether they've started receiving allocations or not, but the man was just very futuristic and he engaged us. Now, the thing about it is that there are many investors that are in our portfolio, but the problem is everyone still wants to invest in Lagos. Nobody wants to go to Niger State. Everybody is still saying, I wish this project is in Lagos. I wish this project is in Lagos. I mean, everybody wants to invest in Lagos, because what Lagos have shown over the years is not just only about the security of life and properties, but security of investment.
Okay.
When you bring your money to Lagos,
you are
assured your money will come back to you with interest. It's not that it will just come back to you whole. It will come back to you with interest.
But don't you think that it's better for business owners or investors to move out of Lagos because of the congestion?
Yes.
And I think if I was a business person, I'll move my business outside Lagos. I'll just look for something viable here that I know that will work outside.
Absolutely.
And just copy and paste.
So this was the move for my business last year. Yeah, we've been in Lagos. I mean, I'm a Lagosian, full-blown Lagosian from Imota here in Lagos State, and I've always done everything here in Lagos. Grew up in Lagos. I mean, this is Ikeja. Okay, I went to Maryland Primary School in Maryland, Aladra Comprehensive High School in Antony. I only went to university in Ogun State. Outside that, I've been in Lagos over 40 years. But then I told myself, we can move things outside.
Like this.
We can go somewhere else. I mean, we can take our investors somewhere else. And so we started the process of, chasing down projects up north and across the country. Just like what you said, I mean, we're still telling our people that let us look outside Lagos, because Lagos is congested. I mean, that's where we also need the state government to sort of re-engineer Lagos. For example, if you talk about those who are doing real estate, I mean, we are getting to the point where we are misusing the infrastructure called land in Lagos. We're supposed to be going vertical rather than spreading horizontally. Because all the lands that are supposed to be used for agriculture to sustain Lagos are now being used for estate. I mean, go like as you're going to Ekpe now, literally left to right, everything is all land banking, estate, this and all of that. And a lot of them are failing, but they won't come and tell you that. But I can tell you for free, a lot of those projects are failing. Go to my hometown in Imota, and as you drive from Ikorodu and you're going in that direction towards it, talking to go to Ekpe, then you start seeing, and I mean, my own family are also all selling lands now. All the Okobi have now turned into estate. I mean, there's no more farmland to grow corns, and my grandmother used to make fantastic gari. Now we don't even have gari to, no land to plant gari anymore. So, I mean, we have to now be importing gari from Oda Ijebu, communities and all of that. So now the problem is we're spreading horizontally instead of going vertical. And so that is causing problems in the real estate sector. The congestion of the human traffic is also impacting on the fact that as people are spreading horizontally, infrastructure is not put in place. So you will see houses just built anyhow in new developing areas. And then it's going to cause a lot of hazard in the environment to Lagos State. I mean, the commissioner is doing a fantastic work, but is it going to be enough? Olusosun, to be honest, whether we want to deny it or not, is a total mess. I mean, it's just close by here. Olusosun is a total mess. What can we do differently? We must stop and rejig Lagos and turn around the policy of how we engage in Lagos. And if we don't do it and do it right, I mean, we'll continue to have the problem that will have multiple legs like an octopus.
I like the fact that you mentioned the Olusosun dump site. Is it like destroying the brand of Lagos, or what do you mean there?
I mean, is it that it is destroying it, or it has destroyed it? I mean, Lagos is trying to.
Brand.
Yes, Lagos is trying its best, and I mean, Mr. Wahab is trying his best to sort of change the narrative, and I see it on social media. And because I wrote the strategy document, for this administration at the beginning, when Loma sort of was reenacted after Governor Ambode, and the third phase, which was the waste to wealth, is what what Loma is trying to get into. But all of these other distractions will not make it happen. But you see, it's not just only about the distraction of Olusosun and the smell and the heap of waste there, but for the fact that we are not able to control the influx of people in and out of the state, and there are not enough infrastructure. I mean, there are some streets that the the collectors cannot even get into. So how do they dispose their waste?
There's some small, very small streets that the trucks that
I mean, I saw a truck that was like this. And I was like, this is getting into Ikorodu Road.
Many of them are like...
Will this get to Olusosun like this?
Yes.
And I know the operator, but what will I say? I was just like, I mean, this is just... I mean, infrastructure deficit in Lagos, the gap is huge. And the gap is huge because, I mean, there are some things we need to do and do right.
Okay, let's look at PIBEC, that's the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council. How are they contributing to the ease of doing business in Lagos, and what specific initiatives have been put in place and have yielded good results?
Yeah, I mean, that's at the federal level.
Yes, at the federal level.
They have 37 states to worry about, more or less, 36 plus the FCT.
So Lagos is the business hub of the country?
Yeah, so as much as if they try to put priority on Lagos, people would turn it around politically and say, hey, everything is Lagos, Lagos. So what should Lagos do differently? Lagos should be more engaging rather than waiting for PIBEC to engage Lagos.
Okay.
And so Lagos, I don't know, I'm not sure I've seen whether Lagos has a similar structure like PIBEC, to sort of have that ease of doing business for Lagos State in such a way that there could be a lot of research about what is going on in Lagos, and what are those octopus legs that sort of, tie to all of these things, and use the reports to, advise the governor, and then the governor can then take it further to go and engage the villa, of course, through PBEC, by saying, we need your help in these areas, because if there's some things that must happen at the federal level that would sort of cascade down to the state, but the state must take ownership of itself.
Let's look at the World Bank now. Is there anything they're doing in contributing to ease of doing business here in Lagos?
My view as to external influence is that if you want your puppet to dance by itself, don't let the puppet master dictate your dance. So, I mean, that's my easiest way of putting it.
That's way. Okay, just before we go, what advice do you even have now for, would I say, new business owners or aspiring business owners and the SMEs? What advice would you have for them, despite the fact that, many of them are, going through a lot when it comes to managing their businesses in Lagos?
The most important thing for SMEs and every business in Lagos is that you should not be rigid. I mean, that's the best, the simplest way to summarize. Don't be rigid. I mean, like I said, I'm talking in billions of, naira in project, but I don't have a physical office. Because what I had to tell myself was, if I must continue to travel to engage the market in getting these businesses, keeping the office, I mean, spending the cost of, running the office will just run me totally down. So, I mean, I had to sort of restructure myself. And, businesses, don't hold on too much onto some things that you can let go of. I mean, you have 200 square meters of space of office. You don't necessarily need to shut it down. Check yourself, check your staff strength that you require. If you can make use of 100 square meters, stay there and then sublet out the remaining 100 square meters. I mean, do virtual office, do co-working hubs, and let the revenue of the remaining 100 square meters sort of pay for some of the bills that you have. Because then it will help you. Because, I mean, if you have a consultant who sits on a desk, and then some days the consultant is on site, maybe on another project or is with a client, that space is useless for those number of days. But if you make your staff to everybody come and find a space to work, because all you need is just a table, chair, you connect to the internet, and it's conducive enough for you. Find any space, any day, every day you come to the office, find anywhere to work. The remaining space that you can have for people, sublet it out for, virtual office and co-working and all of that. It helps you. If you do other small businesses, focus on selling the unconventional way. Sell online, engage more virtually, and then let's not continue to live in the space of this is it and it must always be like this. I mean, like your friend, like you said, that was running a school. I mean, she can turn around that energy, that passion, and turn it into digital. She can have digital classrooms. Because there's still gaps for children and students that wants to learn from her because of the passion that she has. So she can turn it into a digital classroom. So instead of having a physical school, she could have an online school. And she will still find, students. I mean, if I'm a teacher and I've lost my job and I teach Yoruba, for example, I'll probably I'll be richer.
The local languages are very valuable now.
Yes, I mean, I would get clients across the world, and I'll just have a digital, Yoruba teaching class, and I'll be making my money in FX, and I'll be spending in Naira. I mean, that's a strategy that I'll push to the federal government as well. Earn in FX and spend in Naira.
Spend in Naira. Thank you very much, Jeff Adeboale. He has told us, as a strategist, how to rethink, some of your business ideas. We've been talking about ease of doing business in Lagos, and Jeff Adeboale, policy development strategist, has been, taking us through all of that. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back after this short break.